Dr. Price traveled the world at a very interesting time in the 1930s, where we had the intersection of these traditional indigenous diets and the modern diet. And he traveled the world from the tundras to the tropics, documenting the impacts of these diets. And while I highly recommend you reading this book, it's 500 plus pages, and I can summarize it pretty fast right now because he found the same thing across the entire world. Those that were eating their traditional and indigenous diets had overall healthy mouths and healthy bodies. However, clue number one, when these modern foods were first introduced to a society, they got cavities. Now for our clue number two, the second generation post-adoption of these modern foods, they not only got cavities, they got malocclusion. And Dr. Price also gives us a hint about clue number three here. So when I'm reading this book, 500 plus pages, it's an epic. I'm turning page after page. Not once does Dr. Price mention obesity, overeating. Not once throughout the entire book. These people are eating huge amounts of sugar and flour. Shouldn't we be mentioning? He's talking all about the oral and physical degeneration of these people. Not once does he mention overweight or obesity. In fact, Dr. Price hypothesized the oral and physical degeneration accompanying these modern foods was malnutrition. He thought we basically had this calorie limit, and these modern foods were basically empty calories. And since we're filling our calorie limit with empty calories, we're not leaving enough room for nutritious food. And that's what he thought was the main problem. And this makes sense because you know what else he doesn't really mention in the book? Only in passing, these vegetable fats. They were the newest kids on the block. These vegetable oils, they made up a far smaller percentage of what he calls the displacing foods of modern commerce. These displacing foods of modern commerce were predominantly the flours and the sugars, and these vegetable fats made up a far smaller percentage. But today, these vegetable fats make up 20 to 30% of the modern diet. 9 out of 10 dentists aren't going to do what Dr. Price did and stray out of their lane, even if a head-on car collision's coming. But I would argue all dentists need to expand their lanes here. We need to be concerned about obesity and its impact on oral health, because dentists have a front row seat to see obesity in the mouth and the dire consequences of airway obstruction.